Welcome back to Started from the Bottom. I am your host, Susan Peterson. I'm super stoked. Today we have Earle Foote in the studio. How you doing, Earle?
Doing really well, just made the lovely drive from downtown Salt Lake to Utah County.
Oh, was it snowing?
No, it wasn't, actually, but the traffic was, there were a couple wrecks on the way, like you would expect on I-15, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
normal.
traffic was a little...
Normal Thursday.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Earle, how did you get started?
Good question. Stupidity, foolishness.
It's like every
youth.
entrepreneur.
Yeah. I was 23 actually when my brother and I started Nexus IT.
Shut up. You were 23.
I was 23. Yeah, exactly. It was the .com boom, and we had found this turnkey website offering for $500. You would they had direct integration to two of the major IT equipment manufacturers in the U.S., to Ingram Micro and to Tech Data. And for $500, you had a fully ready website with millions of SKUs of IT gear, switches and routers and computers and servers and all that kind of stuff, right? And my brother was the one who ran across it. He came to me with the harebrained idea, and he's like, "Let's each put in $250, and we're going to be Bill Gates tomorrow, right?"
Mm-hmm. Why not?
Yeah, so we, we put the money in, which for 23-year-old in college, married and with a kid at the time, typical Utah kind of thing, right? I was working full time during the day, taking 18 to 21 credit hours at night,
Sheesh.
Married with a kid. And we started a business. And the $250 was a little bit challenging to come up with at that time, right? That was some money. And we assumed that you just put this website out there and overnight, you start getting orders and stuff like that. And like a month later, we're sitting there twiddling our thumbs going, what the hell's going on, right?
How did you drive traffic to websites 20 years ago?
That's just it. We had no idea that you were supposed to. We didn't even, my brother was 25, I think 26, and I was 23. We didn't even know you were supposed to drive traffic to websites. And really that wasn't, necessarily a thing. Yes, you had to get indexed and, there was pay-per-click, right? We just didn't know much about it, nor did we have the budget, right? So we'd kind of scrape together everything we could to pay net sales $500 to put up the website, and then it's like, oh well, we don't have money for marketing and advertising. The thing is, though, really quickly, as we put up that website, within a month or two, people started asking us, and businesses started asking us to take care of their IT. It was pretty much right away that we started to, both of us, moonlight and do, IT systems administration, network engineering type of stuff for small and medium businesses in Utah, right? And we were doing that at nights because that's the only time we had, nights and weekends. Both had full-time jobs, right? And so it took about 18 months for us to create adequate revenue that I could go full-time, right? And then it probably took another 12 or 18 where my brother quit his job and came on board full-time. And, I think just kind of in the process, we tried, and candidly, at our age, I had studied civil engineering. He had studied IT, and neither one of us had studied business. We didn't have any business being in business. We really didn't. We didn't know the first thing about it.
Yeah.
But we were toying around with ideas, and we toyed around with some consumer kind of services and business to business services and turnkey audio video production systems. That did pretty well for us for a while it was applicable. So we were toying around with different hypotheses, and ultimately, just kind of settled in on our first kind of entrepreneurial epiphany was that there's major need, particularly in Utah at that time, there was major need in the small and medium business and small and medium enterprise sector for IT outsourcing. At the time, we called it contract IT. The tools to do remote management and maintenance and support weren't really very robust at that time, and they were really slow. So at the time, we would basically lease ourselves or employees to a company for a determined amount of hours per week or per month. And so that's really where we really started to get some traction, and things started to take off, from there. Ultimately, and the business we had originally branded it PC Nirvana, is what it was called. In 2004, we sold all the consumer services, the consumer side of the business, to former employees, rebranded to Nexus IT, and went 100% into the business-to-business kind of realm, business-to-business IT and cyber services. Cyber came along, in more in depth later in the journey, because that's really become a massive need in the last decade or the last 12 years or so. There's been plenty of kind of ups and downs and pivots in the process. We were chatting a little bit about economic booms and economic busts and stuff like that, and we definitely have some stories tied to those. My brother and I did split the business down the middle in 2012. At that point, I took over the head of Nexus IT and, really leaned in on what the industry calls managed services and managed security services models. We were already doing that. It's just that, I made that basically our primary and ultimately our only offering. At the time, we still had some e-commerce properties, so we did quite a few different e-commerce things, even in apparel and soccer gear and that kind of stuff for a while. that we were toying around with ideas and stuff like that, and some of them did fine. We sold some of those properties and things like that. They never made massive money, but at the time that I that I kind of did away with all of our e-commerce properties because they weren't creating adequate profit. We were doing $2.5 million a year in e-commerce sales, right?
Yeah.
That's
great.
Yeah. So we've, really today we are one of the nation's fastest growing managed security service and managed IT service providers. We just announced a week ago that we've been placed again in the top 250 fastest growing in the nation at the moment, which out of 120,000 of us, that's, we feel pretty good about that.
How many employees do you have?
About 60, 65 heads. I think we have 4 new coming on Monday, actually.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So you've been around the internet block.
I have a couple of times. Yeah.
Do you feel like when you were growing up, you were always entrepreneurial?
I've always been very independent and very driven. When I interview a lot of entrepreneurs on my podcast, a lot of them had little startups or something in junior high. I never had those. I started working at 12 years old. Actually, my first job was cleaning the butcher department of the local grocery store.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, every afternoon. It was disgusting. It was a terrible job.
Can you ever get that smell out of your nose? That's so gross.
Yeah. It was terrible.
Yeah.
But, for a 12-year-old who wanted to make some money, that's what I did. So I kind of paid my own way, my expenses. My family didn't have a lot of resources. I was the youngest of 6 kids. I had kind of expensive taste from the time I was in my early teens. I wanted nice jeans and nice
so you
shirts.
like money.
I do. Not like, I don't feel like I have an unhealthy relationship. I just, I like to have the things that I want to have, and some of the creature comforts that I want. I'm not super, in fact, the older I get, Susan, I have this saying, and excuse the brashness of it, but the saying is, the older I get, the less shit I want to own, and the less I want my shit to own me, right?
Right.
So I'm actually kind of a minimalist, but the things that I like to have, I want to have nice things, right? And I'm an experienced kind of guy. I'm an adventurer, so that's where a lot of my money goes is to go explore and do fun things, right? And less on material possessions, more on experiences. From the time I was young, just very much like, I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to make money. So I'd find jobs, and do various different things. Certainly did the paper route thing, and landscaping and
I did both
fast
of those
foods
things.
and all that
There's
stuff.
No paper. I don't even think they have paper routes anymore.
Yeah, right? I doubt that there's...
Well, there's no kids running around the neighborhood doing it.
Does anybody get a paper delivered in the morning anymore? I don't even know.
You just get on your computer, right?
Yeah.
I also did landscaping one summer. That was fun.
Yeah, I did that several summers. Yeah.
You were the youngest of 6?
I was the youngest of 6.
Where'd you grow up?
West Valley City, Utah.
Out in the valley.
I did. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so you have been through 2 tech booms, 2 recessions. Well, one in whatever part of it we're in right now, right?
Yeah.
With your business.
It's really kind of if you count 2008, 2012, and now, it's really kind of the 4th downturn, right?
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. But 2008 was a recession, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And 2012
12 was just a
slowdown of the economy.
Yeah.
What are we in for? I'm sure you have a magic ball now.
I wish I did. This one looks so much different than anything I've ever seen.
It's wild, right?
Yeah, it's very unpredictable. I don't know that anybody can figure it all out. There's just so many new variables and conditions. The information age has propelled and enabled us so much, but at the same time, it has destabilized so much, right? I think that experts in the past who would say, well, this is kind of the way things are going to go, and it's going to last this long, and these are the things we can expect. I don't think anybody knows anymore, and then you've got the introduction of cryptocurrency that, has played some role, and a lot of people have put money in that and lost a lot of money, and now destabilization of banks that's happening. Hopefully we're not hearing much more about that, in the last week or so. Hopefully
I was talking to my husband. I'm like, I feel like in 2008, we saw the bank thing coming.
Yeah.
Like you knew it was coming. They talked about it. Okay, we're done.
Yep. Yeah, but Silicon Valley Bank came out of nowhere, right?
Literally within 24 hours.
Yeah. I guess if you study that whole story, Silicon Valley Bank had been trying to raise a fund because they knew that they were...
Yeah, their balance sheet was off.
Yeah, their balance sheet was off. And they kind of did so in the wrong way, a little too publicly, and so a lot of VCs got wind.
That's management 101.
Yeah.
Protect your information.
Yeah.
Come on.
VCs started telling their startups that they were invested in to go withdraw all their funds.
Yeah, who's that PayPal guy? They say he started it.
Yeah.
Not
was it Reid Hoffman? No.
Yeah, I think it was.
Was it Reid Hoffman from
LinkedIn? I believe so. No.
No.
Let me look it up.
There's so many in the PayPal mafia.
I know.
Of course, Elon and, so many. But, this one just, it's the conditions are completely different. And it
Peter
seems
Thiel.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it was him. Sorry. Keep going.
Oh, I was just saying that it seems to me that there's so many new variables that we've never seen before, and that are just kind of blindsiding everybody, and it's unpredictable. Like, it's weird because in business for us right now, and we're growing, business has been reasonably good. It's just unpredictable. Like, where we kind of knew for a long time what our pipeline would look like, how many leads we'd have coming in a month, what that would lead to, and net new revenue and all that kind of stuff. It's just completely wild swings month to month right now. You just don't know. Like, we have really heavy months, and then we have months that's like, okay, it's like crickets around here. What's going on, right?
Right.
So, and it's kind of been that the last 6 months, 6 months or so. The heavy months have been great because, they've compensated for some of the months that have been a little quieter. But I would like for it to be a little more predictable because it's just, it's kind of, you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we're experiencing the same thing at Freshly Picked where, you forecast your year off of the last 2 or 3 years, and it's worked so well in the past.
Yep.
And now it's like forecasting is almost impossible.
Right. Yeah.
And we don't even know. Do you feel like in the last, like in 2008, how did you guys make it through? What corner did you guys sit in that you were able to make it through? Was it tight? Was it lean?
We've always been lean. I mean, I'm still, I'm almost 25 years into bootstrapping this venture, right? And
You've never raised money?
Never raised money. Nope.
Smart.
But that means we've always been, very methodical about growth and sometimes, slow, but that's our industry. I mean, the industry-wide average, nationwide is 10 to 15% in annual growth. We grow more along the lines of about 35% on average, but then with our M&A practice, which we've done 7 of those now, we can usually do 80 to 100% growth in a year, right? 2008, we were significantly smaller as an organization at that time. If I think back, probably 10 or 12 employees total, maybe even 8 employees total. I would say that our clients at that time were not deeply affected. We were more concentrated in, we kind of started at least the business-to-business stuff in Park City in 2004, and the tourist industry, and most of our clients that were ski shops and restaurants and hotels and that kind of stuff, they weren't deeply impacted in 2008, so we weren't deeply impacted. The thing that has always really helped us in pretty much every economic downturn that we've seen, including COVID, the only one that was an exception was the dot-com bust, right, for us. And that is that in times of uncertainty, organizations, businesses start looking at outsourcing a lot more. It's an easier, safer bet than to do hires and then not know if in 3 months or 6 months you're going to have to release people, right? It's a lot easier to to bring on an outsourced partner and then cut ties if you have to or something like that. So economic downturns actually usually bode reasonably well for at least our industry, right? Outsourced cyber and IT. That isn't true for all outsourced industries, right? But for ours, it has been over the last 3 economic downturns. So that was and COVID was the most pronounced. It was really a force multiplier throughout the MSP, MSSP kind of industry nationwide and actually worldwide. A lot of organizations that they averaged 5% growth a year, grew 100% in 2020 because everybody went home to work and they didn't know how to do that, right? And so they relied upon managed service providers to help them navigate how do we all go home to work, and then how do we do that. Some businesses asked, how do we do that safely and securely, right? Some didn't care.
Yeah, like attorneys,
sure,
anywhere that you need sensitive information, banks, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Shoot, I had a question. Do you feel like people are going back into the office? I've seen this on the news. What do you feel like the sentiment is? Because I know you probably talk to a lot of stakeholders.
Yeah. I guess really it depends on industry and it comes down to the business. We've been in office really, so we had signed a lease pre-COVID. That space was ready for us June 2020.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we just said to the team, hey, look, we're going to go back into the office. It's not required, but we'd love to see you here if you want to be. State and city rules at that point permitted that. And so we just said, if you feel comfortable and want to come in, fantastic, come in. If you yourself or you have family members that are, potentially immunocompromised, don't, come in. And to our I guess liking, most of our team, they were already suffering the work from home blues. They were like, this kind of sucks. I want to be back in the office with my colleagues. So we've actually had, and our team's always been somewhat remote because a good portion of our team works in the field at client sites, right, or doing projects out in the field. And then, of course, our sales teams are, out in the field most of the time. But since June 2020, I would say we're 60 to 70% of the staff that's in the office at any time. That's us, right? What am I seeing? I would have to say there's a lot of controversial narratives around work from home and whether it really does work or not. I would say as a business leader, it does present significant challenges that you have to figure out how to navigate, right? There are certainly industries and organizations and people where I think it works just fine, right? And in fact, we have a number of clients that are 100% fully virtual companies and have always been that. And they seem to do fantastic, right? Certainly the culture has a lot to do with it. It takes more creative leaders and people managers to understand how to provide a lot of autonomy and manage people based upon results and not on checklist or specific amount of hours worked and stuff like that, right? And there's industries where that just doesn't work. For example, our clients expect us to be available 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And then, our clients that pay us for 24/7 around the clock support, they expect us to be available around the clock. And so we have to have shifts, right? I can't really just, tell somebody, hey, I want you to work, 10 tickets at any, at your leisure throughout any time period during the day. It doesn't work because our clients, we have call volumes that we have to take care of, and whether they're in the office or they're out of the office, we need them at specific times, right?
Right.
I'm seeing. Of course, you got a lot of big companies that are saying, work from home isn't working, and we're not going to do it anymore, or we're going to cut you down to 1 day a week of work from home. And you have those diehards that still feel very passionate about it, right? And that's okay. I think it's not a one-size-fit-all sort of thing. I think that there are companies and people and industries it works for, and there are those that it doesn't.
Yeah, for sure. I need to not be in my house when I work.
Yeah.
And I need a commute. I really enjoy a commute.
Yep.
Like at that decompressing time.
Totally. Yeah.
But I know there's some people who would rather not talk to anyone in person,
Yeah.
And so I think it just totally depends. But you see all this stuff in the news, which I don't even know why I pay attention because it's not real. Okay. Yeah. You have worked with tons of generations, tons by tons, I mean 4. Yeah. So you've worked with the boomers.
Yep.
Is that what it's okay to call them that,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I think so.
Gen X, Millennials, Gen Z. Let's talk about the differences, the similarities, who you like best.
Yeah. I can't say who I like best.
You have
to. Some of our very first employees were boomers, right?
Yeah.
I'm Gen X.
Same.
Yeah, and I have, so between my wife and I, we have 5 kids. 3 of them are my biological kids, my boys, and then her son and daughter, right? So I have 2 bonus kids. So we have millennial children and we have Gen Zers. And so we've seen, those 2 generations at home, and I've seen all 4 in the workplace. They're all different. And you mentioned there are a lot of people who they would rather not be around people or have to, they just want to email and chat and stuff like that. And I would say, I don't want to, generalize or stereotype, but I would say that I see that sort of activity and behavior more commonly among Gen Zers and millennials. They've grown up on devices. That's what they're used to. Their interaction, they're comfortable with not necessarily having water cooler chats and, not having, the social hours and stuff like that, right? They also seem to be those that are most for a work from home type of, environment. They're different, and we currently have. We probably don't have any boomers. We've probably had our last boomer retire last year. I don't know that if I think through it, if we have any boomers that are part of the team right now. So we have team members across 3 generations: Zs, millennials, and Xers, right? And they're just different. They take, different people leadership styles. Different things matter to them more, right? It seems like the younger generations, their compensation package, they want it more heavily weighted on benefits than on salary, right? So they want fringe benefits, sometimes really unconventional, odd things that,
Like what?
boomers and a grooming allowance, for example.
Like personal grooming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course the massages, or things like having alternative. You think of our friend Riley Butters and Donde, right? Scenarios like that where they want, rather than a 401k, they're not as much future forward kind of thinking. I think that our parents, for example, and their parents experienced the Great Depression, right? The boomers, some of them experienced that as young kids, and that caused our generations to be very future forward thinking. We got to save money. We got to have a retirement. We got to take care of ourselves. It seems to me that millennials and Gen Zers worry a lot less about that stuff. But so they don't want to put money into a 401k, but they want to put money into a vacation savings account or something like that, right?
Interesting.
It's just it's and really good people leaders kind of have to learn how to deal with it all on the fly, all at once, with multiple different generations on one team. Intrinsically, what motivates them is different. Younger generations seem to be far more concerned about alignment with something they feel like they have purpose with, about alignment with something that has good social impact, or that they feel like is doing something meaningful, that they're able to do something meaningful in their employment. We've always done community action. We have a community action committee, but I would say that those that identify most with that, funny enough, those that identify most with it are the younger generations when it comes to actually taking action and showing up for, like service projects and stuff like that. They like to sign up, but don't necessarily like to show up sometimes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I also feel like millennials and Gen Zs, back to your point about not, just from my experience in my office, they like to job hop.
Yeah.
And like move around every couple of years. It seems to be like that's what you do.
Yep.
I saw a study recently that compared if you're like hopping around to like staying in one place, you make so much more money just by staying in one place.
Yeah.
But I think they are like, do it for the plot, do it for the experience, like just jump around.
I know my kids were taught that in school. Like they taught them that for their growth in their careers, that they should pursue new opportunities every few years so that they could go do something different. That's why, for example, as a CEO, I have to always think about career upward mobility within our organization. How do we create intrinsic career paths for people, right?
Yeah.
because otherwise you will lose them. If they're not being challenged, and if you study some of the experts out there, they usually say a person's career should be disrupted every 3 to 5 years. They should have a change in role, right? Every 3 to 5 years. Because otherwise they get bored, they check out, and they will look for something else. And so, we try to design all of our kind of teams and departments so that there's opportunity, for people to move through the ranks, opportunity for them to move, for example, say from a support team to a projects team, or a support team to a knock or sock team, right? So they can get exposure to different things, and different tiers within each one of those teams, right? And then, candidly, we've had people jump, for example, our current director of marketing, Mallory Lovestad, she was my executive assistant for about a year. She was helping me with a lot of the marketing stuff, and I just said, look, it's time somebody take this role on full time, and offered her the position. So she went from, being much more familiar with kind of office admin, executive assistant type of stuff, and now runs our marketing, which is cool, right? And she's having a good time, and she was super excited to do something new and different.
Wow. Okay, which generation is your favorite?
Can't answer that.
It's Gen X, right?
I mean, that's our generation. But, I got to say, some of the horror stories I hear out there, I really haven't experienced a lot of those. Like, our younger team members are really, really great. They're really fantastic, and they're super loyal. Yes, some of them hop jobs sometimes, but if we take good care of them, and they feel purpose, they feel they're compensated correctly, right? And they have trajectory within the organization, they stay with us a lot longer. So I got to say that I've really enjoyed, working with, and the fact that boomers and Xers, we were kind of taught more just to punch a time clock a little bit, right? It was more like you don't have to have purpose in what you do. You just got to have a job and, make an income and take care of your family, right? And it seems like the younger generations, they at times engage at a higher level because they feel that they're aligned with purpose, right? Yeah.
Interesting. It's a good way to not answer the question, Earle.
That was rather diplomatic of me, wasn't it?
I know. So when you're starting your business, what's the scrappiest thing you ever did?
Oh, let's see. That's an interesting question. My 25-year journey has been scrappy, right?
Yeah.
The whole thing. I think probably it's just learning to sell, learning to market and sell, right? Like, again, I've never raised money, so there was a time when my brother and I wore all the hats in the business. And, because we've built slowly over the last 25 years, I've worn a lot of those hats for a long time. I just told you, I was still kind of CMO, CRO, CEO until even, the last 18 months or 24 months. I was filling all those roles at any given time. And so, getting out and pounding the pavement, right? That's probably the scrappiest thing, like literally canvassing, knocking doors, going out with flyers, back in the day, and business cards, and introducing ourselves, and, going to peer groups and networking groups and all that kind of stuff. And I still do that. That's still a massive lead gen source for us, right?
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going from here to a CEO group. I still belong to 3 or 4, groups that I go to. And I go to them for the relationships and, for the camaraderie, for the community, but they also bring opportunity. So, I think, having the guts to go pound doors, because digital marketing wasn't much, 25 years ago. And literally, like, you had to, and my business is very much a relationship, based business. It's not transactional. You have to earn people's trust for them to outsource IT and cybersecurity to you. And so it's still a lot of handshakes, right? It's still a lot of smiles and building relationships with people. And 25 years ago, that was definitely the case. Like, we had to go out and meet people. You would do the work you had to do, and you would go pound on doors so that you could get some sales.
Yeah.
Get revenue.
What's something that you learned, a lesson you learned early on that you would think is still true today?
Let me think about that for a second. Probably people are your greatest asset in business. I think that, and if I look back at what was the status quo in business 30 or 40 years ago or beyond that, people were commodity for the most part.
Yeah.
That doesn't fit into a modern world. Leaders and organizations that have the most success are those that truly value their people and the relationships they have with them, and truly care about their experience and how they show up for them, in the office or at work, whatever that looks like. And so that was an interesting journey for me. I think, starting this business, a tech business, late 90s, early 2000s, candidly, early 20s, we had a bro culture. It was
Of course you did,
it
Earle.
was airsoft guns and
How'd you
paint gun wars and
transition
all
out
that
of
kind of
that?
stuff. Yeah, so I would say first off, I really highly valued people, but there wasn't a lot of accountability, right? And so we weren't always producing the right results. And I thought
But it was fun.
it was fun. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. We were having a good time. It was all colleagues, about the same age and early to mid 20s guys that were hanging out and having fun, right? I thought that I had to swing the pendulum too far the other way, so I thought I had to be the asshole boss, to get things to happen, right? And I found that wasn't true either. I found that didn't resonate with people and it didn't work. And so I finally realized that you gotta have a really good blend, right? You gotta know how to be very clear about expectations and how to help people understand accountability at the same time while knowing that helping them know that they're valued, right, and that you care about them, and that you're there, to support and to help them and to help them grow, as individuals, as professionals. And so, we've worked really hard, at creating a culture where we, one of my formulas in business is that you take good care of your people will take good care of your clients, and if your clients are taken care of well, the financial picture of the business will add up correctly. So, and that's my primary focus as a CEO absolutely has to be on clients and the outcomes of our strategic plans, but it's also around our people experience. Making sure that they're feeling aligned, they're feeling fulfilled, they're feeling rewarded, they're feeling purpose in what they're doing. And when that happens, I know that our clients are being taken care of well. Clients are taken care of well, they pay well.
Right. And they come back and they tell other people about you.
Yep.
What advice would you give to someone starting out?
I guess first of all, know that that entrepreneurship, it will be the most challenging thing that you'll probably ever deal with in your life, right? That and maybe interpersonal relationships, right? Or the two. Okay, I guess I'm talking through my lens, right? Because there are people who deal with significant illnesses and
Sure.
other things that that happen, but.
Maybe it's safe to say the thing you choose into, right?
Yeah, sure.
One of the hardest things you choose into.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Entrepreneurship will beat you up like nothing else will, right? So what I would say is, first of all, know that most days, particularly in the earlier years, are not going to be really awesome days, right? They're going to be extremely challenging, and days where you may just want to throw your hands in the air and give up. Second of all, my advice would be don't give up.
Right.
If you've got a dream, if you have a vision, and you believe in what you want to build, and you believe that you can build it and the people around you can build it, then go build it, right?
Yeah.
Of course you need traction. You need the market to tell you that what you're building has value, right? And that people want to consume it. If that's not happening, just literally, one of our cool local startups this week has announced that they're going to shut things down. A cool local startup from here in Utah County that breaks my heart because they're good friends. And
Wait, who is it?
Volley.
I don't know.
Okay, it's a video chat app. That started up kind of right at the beginning of COVID. It's awesome application. Unfortunately, the timing in the market just doesn't seem right. That's you have to assess those things, right? If the market is telling you that there's not adequate product market fit to scale a business, then at some point you have to step aside from that business.
Yeah.
Or you can be really stupid like me and just keep going, and at some point it works.
Yeah. Wind everything down as tight as you can get it, and then keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. You feel like, is that one of your superpowers? Is like longevity and just kind of sticking in the race?
Yeah. 25 years in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been through some stuff,
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got dead bodies all over the valley, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, half of them are mine, but
For sure. Yeah, parts of yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Horcruxes all over the valley.
Yeah.
What else do you? So when you're operator, are you operating? You said you were engineer. That was your degree, or
yes.
Did you finish your degree?
Civil engineer. Yes. Yeah, I did.
Do you feel like that's where you operate from? Is like a very operational point of view, like problem solving?
Today, I'm far more, the visionary, strategic mind, the culture, mind, and the revenue kind of mind, right? Yes, there was a time where I was the engineer and operations mind, but I've turned those reins over to other people for a long time because actually when my brother and I split the business in 2012, where I was, I definitely was the operator at that time. I wanted, a much higher growth business, and so I brought in another operator. Trained him up, and he's still with us and still does, part of our operations, all of our back end, he's our director of administrative operations. So he's been with us a little over a decade now. But I brought in an operator, and then I changed my role to revenue, to marketing, to vision strategy, right? And that's where I've lived, really the last decade plus. And I would say that's where I've found my mojo,
Really?
Yeah. I am very left-brained. I don't know if you know Susan. I'm a musician as well. I play in a band.
I Googled you, so yeah, I do know that.
Okay. So I have this very logical, right-brained, engineer mind, right? But I also have this creative, left brain side of me. And I find that when I'm able to, spend more time on that left side, I'm a little more in my flow, right? And so, can I do operations? Can I get nitty gritty and, really get deep into data and figure out what's working and what's not working and refine operations and processes and, people and all that kind of stuff? Yes, I can, right? But I find my art a little more in the activities that are more left brained.
What's like what are you working towards? What is this all going to be?
Building an empire,
I mean, besides that, what does that look like?
So we again, I mentioned to you that we have, an M&A practice.
Yeah.
The current, market conditions, we did our last transaction, summer of last year. Have just kind of at the beginning of this year finished up that integration process. That was the most extensive one we've done because that was the largest, merger acquisition we've done, and largest team, largest book of clients. So it took 6 or 7 months to really kind of do that whole integration project, and we're just getting on the backside of that at this point. Starting to, think about the next acquisitions. Certainly, we're looking to expand our footprint outside of Utah at a much quicker pace. So I'm looking at, acquisitions in other regional markets. However, the current economy, we're also just being judicious and careful about how we go about those decisions, and also, figuring out capital for those decisions, right? In the past, when, if you have a good balance sheet and the business you're acquiring has a good balance sheet, it's not difficult. It wasn't difficult to get bank debt to take care of those transactions, right? Today, it's extreme. Banks can't loan, basically, like not even the most creative ones.
You don't want that interest rate either.
Yeah, no, you don't.
Right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're just, we're toying with a lot of different creative capital,
You're going to raise a fund?
solutions. Mum's the word, but we've explored IPO, several different IPO strategies, and we've explored, VC and PE funds, and we're still doing due diligence on lots of different, opportunities. By the way, I'm telling you a lot more than I've ever told anybody about all this stuff.
Do you want us to take it out?
No, it's cool. Okay. No, it's cool. It's cool. It's just we are exploring our next steps, and I would expect that, sometime in the next 3 to 6 months, we'll probably make some announcements around that.
I could imagine that your business, although it is in tech, is very stable. You say you have big months, you have small months, but for the most part, it's pretty stable.
Yeah. Well, and when I say big months and small months, that is in net new revenue, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we sign generally agreements, mostly 12 to 36 month agreements. So we have, monthly recurring revenue. It's one of the reasons why there is so much PE activity happening in M&A roll-ups and acquisitions and stuff in our industry, because it is a very stable industry, right? Once you book a client, unless you're horrible, it's pretty, clients don't go away very fast, right?
No, to unwind like your data security, right. It's not
happening.
Plus, you guys aren't in software so much where you're not like ChatGPT doesn't pose a huge threat to you.
It doesn't. In fact, it's a fantastic tool that we're using a lot to, do a lot of automation and scripting and stuff with, right? So,
right.
So,
so you guys are very stable.
Yeah, when we own the infrastructure, we own the cybersecurity of the organization, or we augment that, right? Most organizations don't want to disrupt that very often. It's a big undertaking to change providers.
No, that is no offense. Yeah. That's a devil is better than the one you don't kind of scenario.
It really is,
100%.
Right? And that's fantastic for us. It can also be challenging in new business development, because oftentimes you work with organizations who can't stand their current provider, but they just don't want to go through the process of making the switch. And so they know you'll do a much better job, but they know the process is 3 months of pain for them, right? And so they're like, you know what, we just can't do it right now. We're just going to deal with the devil we know, right?
Right. It's the same thing with fulfillment centers, honestly.
Yeah.
When you're in product, we had a fulfillment center forever. They were great. It just became our business didn't work with. Like, we have too many SKUs and too many small pieces and not enough pallets and, on and on. So we actually did a 6-month bring fulfillment in-house, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And it took a year to get everything ironed out, but you just sometimes have to do it.
Right. No. Yeah, I totally get that.
But I would imagine from a capital point of view, people are going to have to start putting their capital somewhere at the end of this year. Like, that's what I hear from everyone is like, capital's got to be deployed. It's been sitting on the balance sheets for too long. And so I would imagine with everything disrupting in software, you guys are a really safe bet. You're like a tire shop at this point.
That's just it. Exactly. Where's PE money flowing, right? It's flowing to tire shops and carpet cleaning and car washes and
big O tires. Yeah,
exactly. And MSPs, right?
Yeah.
With 120,000 of us nationwide, right?
Yeah.
It's a highly fragmented industry. There's a lot of opportunity for M&A roll-up strategies.
Yeah.
Okay, we are one of maybe 3 or 4 MSP-owned, MSP-operated M&A roll-up platforms, right? The other 100 are all PE-owned, right? We're a pretty safe bet, but that doesn't mean that we take that for granted. we are and have always been client forward, right? Client experience, it needs to be impeccable. We want to make sure that every experience that they have with us is extraordinary. And so we design, all of those experiences so that is the case, right? Doesn't mean that we're perfect 100% of the time, but it does mean that if a client's unhappy, we'll work with them to fix it. Clients will leave, but a lot will stick with the devil they know. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to do some, I call them rapid fire, but they usually end up being tangent questions. What's your favorite kind of music?
That's a hard question, but I'm mostly a 90s kid, right? So
Okay.
90s grunge and alternative retro kind of
You
stuff.
named your first company Nirvana.
Yeah, PC Nirvana, yeah.
So you're a big Nirvana guy.
Yeah, but I mean, it was more the concept of what Nirvana is, not the
Sure.
band. Yeah. But certainly the reference was there. I mean, I grew up with Nirvana.
What kind of music do you play?
Yeah, the same. Grunge, 90s alt rock.
Is there a big demand for that?
There is, absolutely. I mean,
Really?
there's all these Gen Xers that, that we want the
nostalgia?
nostalgia. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, corporate events and birthday parties and,
Was
the
Corrine
bars
on your band?
Who's that?
Did you guys do like a Silicon Slopes band?
Yeah.
Was Corrine Clark on it?
No,
I thought she was playing
no, I don't
the
know who that is.
tambourine. You don't know Corrine Clark?
I don't.
Corinne?
No.
Corinne? Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
No, but we did, so Silicon Slopes, we did Startfest this last summer. We did, we played for that. And we've done other, other corporate events and stuff like that around.
What position? Not position. What instrument do you play?
I play bass. I can play guitar, but I'm a bassist mostly. So I'm the keep the groove, going kind of guy. People don't know, but myself and the drummer are what you dance to, right?
Really?
That's the beat that gets your hips going, right? That's us. Everybody pays attention to the lead singer, the lead guitarist, because they're flashy.
Sexy, flashy.
Yeah.
But you guys are the real it.
We are the rhythm, right?
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. I have been blessed to be tone deaf. And my kids both, I guess, can sing very well. I can't tell. My husband tells me they can. And every time I sing, they are like, "Mom, can you stop?" And in fact, my daughter and I we were coming home from we went to Taylor Swift in Vegas.
Oh yeah, cool. Everybody went to Taylor Swift. It looks like
it was incredible. Like from an operation and economic point of view, it was wildly cool.
Yeah, cool.
Just watching like the setup of it, like it was just the scale, everything. It was really cool.
Yeah. Concerts always amaze me, like large scale concerts, because the production. There's so much, right? I mean, you got hundreds of people, putting up an elaborate staging system, lighting and everything. In less than 24 hours, and
and then when you have a stage that moves, everything has to work. Like the coordination has to be so seamless.
Has to be perfect.
Yeah. So we were on our way back, and my friend Charlie, he had not slept well, and I was like, "What do you need, Charlie?" And he's like, "For you to sing on key." And I was like, "That's just not happening. I don't know how to do that. It's not happening." Okay, I only ask men this question.
All right.
How do you balance home, family, and work life?
As a founder, that's challenging, right? It really is. And I don't want the answer to be too long. It changes because my wife and I are essentially empty nesters right now. Her daughter's 18, finishing up her senior year of high school, and all of our other kids are adults at this point. They certainly have some boomerang kids that are in and out of the house and that kind of stuff. But when my kids were younger, I was, I coached their rec soccer teams. I was the dad who would, pick them up from school and take them to their competitive soccer practices and games. I had 3 boys in competitive and school soccer all at the same time, and so my ex-wife and I generally had to divide and conquer for games and practices, and then pawn one of the kids off to somebody else, right? So it was just, aligning priorities differently based upon where I was at in my stage of life. And certainly that played a role in how fast I could, grow my company at the time, because I couldn't work as many hours. But at the same time, as a founder, you have to work a lot of long hours, right? I did, one of my greatest regrets is when my kids were much younger, I did miss a lot of their kind of toddler years and stuff like that. A lot of time because, I was again, I was full-time in school, working full-time to support a family and starting a business all at the same time. So, 20-hour work days were pretty norm for me for a long time. That's always been a significant challenge, in my journey. Even, in more recent years and it's taken a lot. My current wife, Angie, a lot of us, kind of sitting down and figuring out things together and what works, what doesn't, because like I said, I still, I'm going to go from here and it's 6:00. I'm going to go to Salt Lake. I'll probably get home after 10 o'clock tonight, which generally happens 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a week. Right. And so, we've had to figure out how to make weeks work and how to make weekends work and balance the time. And, for me, it's just, a collaborative process with your life partner, if you have one, and with your family, and then figuring out how to line up the priorities, right? I won't say that I've always done it perfectly. It's definitely been, especially, always being the primary breadwinner, it's been somewhat challenging at times. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Are you early bird or night owl?
I'm too old to be either at this point.
You sleep late, you go to bed early. No, you're going to bed at 10 tonight. Also when you have teenagers, I feel like it throws you out of your rhythm. Yeah, yeah. Like no matter what you want to be, you're whatever the teenagers are doing.
Yeah, totally. No, that's definitely true. I would love for my normal routine to be, get up at 9 and go to bed at 10:30 or 11, right? The reality is, most days I got to be up by 5:30 or 6, and then most days I'm going to sleep at 11 or midnight or something like that. Yeah.
You get up at 5:30?
5:30 to 6 usually most days.
What do you do?
Usually work out, have breakfast, get ready and head to the office. I usually got to leave by 7:30, to get to the office at 8. So, or to, whatever my first meeting or event is or whatever. So,
sheesh.
Yeah.
So you're early bird.
Because I have to be, right?
You have
I
to be.
I don't like it at all. I tried the 4 a.m. thing for 3 months straight, and I could never get used to it. I was finally like, no way. Like, I'm like, I can make 6 work, 5:30 sucks, but you still have to do it sometimes when you have those 7 or 7:30 meetings,
Yeah.
But 6 o'clock I can get in, a half-hour workout, a little yoga, a little meditation, shower, get ready, have a protein shake, and get to the office at 8. Yeah.
Those are early meetings. Just don't schedule them till 10.
I wish that I could do that. There's just too many meetings to put on the book.
Okay. Any good books you've read lately?
Yeah. This won't be a business one. I think
That's great.
Yeah. And I like, of course, most of what I listen to is business related, but the most recent book that I've listened to that I really, really like, and I'm pulling it up because I needed to remember the author's name. It's a book called Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender by David R. Hawkins. There's a lot of kind of wonky, hippie pseudoscience in the book, but the fundamentals are really, really good. And the material of the book really resonated with me because there was a lot of stuff that I needed to work on and just surrender to, and a lot of stuff I needed to let go of, right, that I'd been holding on to for too long. And I'm still working on that, but it's it's kind of a mindfulness meditation sort of practice as well, or you can turn it into that. So for me, that has been, and his premise, he was a psychiatrist, I believe, and a neuroscientist, and he studied kinesiology and the effects of holding on to shit, holding on to trauma and that kind of stuff, and what that does to the body, right? So really, really quite interesting. How our emotional psyche shows up in the body and the ailments that we experience and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, it's been kind of an eye opener for me to listen to that book. I've listened to it like 4 times now in the last probably 3 months. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Listen.
Have you always been like thoughtful and this way, or
I would say,
or
yeah.
you like pushed just jammed a bunch of stuff through in your early years and then slowed down?
No, I've probably always been a little bit philosophical, a little
Got
bit
it.
of a deep thinker. Even though I play in a rock band and stuff like that, but and then I've got my fun side to me, but yeah, I did find meditation and mindfulness a decade, 12 years ago or so in my life, and that's been a big part of me, and something I really enjoy. Something that I think has helped shape me, and as an individual, and certainly create more of the life that I want to experience for me. And this book has been cool. I've really enjoyed it. I totally recommend it to anybody that feels like they're stuck with something.
Yeah.
Listen to it. It's like it massive eye opener for me.
I had a nervous breakdown now 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Year and a half.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah.
It was wild. But you know what it was? It was trauma and like white knuckling through stuff for 4 years.
Yeah.
And then my body just being like, okay, enough.
Yep.
Like, we got to deal with this.
Yeah. Well, look, entrepreneurship can be grueling,
Yeah.
and when you're not dealing with any of it, right? You're just going for it, and you're just pushing everything down, right? And like, I gotta perform, I gotta make things happen, we gotta make money, we gotta make payroll, we gotta, like, all that stuff, right? Plus the kids and the family on top of all of it, right? And other commitments you might have. It's a lot. It's a lot to deal with.
And they're all intertwined. There's no way to pull anything out.
No.
What's your favorite podcast?
Right now, I think the All In podcast is my favorite podcast. I don't necessarily, and I couldn't tell you the names of those. Are they 4 guys? I don't necessarily like their voices. They're kind of high, squeaky voices, but the material, they're always like just really thought-provoking, and really detailed, and they seem to really research and understand what they're talking about. Of course, Joe Rogan's always kind of fun. He just, he's so out there
wild
and controversial, and
I know. I used to think that he was super. I don't even know the word. I think I thought that he was like QAnon. And then I just listened to one because I was interested, and I'm like, oh no, he just does not care about anyone's opinion.
Yeah.
He's just interested in people, and then just flies his own. He just flies his flag and lets it out. It's interesting.
Joe Rogan's going to do Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah. He's not trying to fit into any box or any agenda or anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Final question. What legacy are you trying to build?
Really good. So, part of my mindfulness journey has been to kind of step back and define, who I am and who I want to be, and what I want to do, in the world. And so for me, it's really about leaving a lasting impact of, just positivity in the lives of the people that I interact with, my employees, my family, my community. You probably see that, for a small tech firm, a services firm that, has fairly thin margins, particularly, compared to a SaaS company, we do a lot of community engagement. We support a lot of really cool organizations and causes, and try to, always align and support what we feel like builds the community, enhances, elevates the community. So that's part of what I want to leave in the end. When I walk away and fly the final flag, of this venture, and I don't know if there'll be another one or what it will be. But when I walk away, I want to be able to walk away and know that that the people around me are better for having been, having interacted with me, right? And so really, that's what it's about. I just, I'm a hippie at heart. I love people. I believe in the human, condition, and I appreciate the delicacy of that. Sorry, not delicacy, the delicateness. That was, yeah. Now I sound like a cannibal. That was really messed up, Susan. I appreciate how delicate the human condition is, right?
Yeah.
I have a lot of empathy for that and for people. In the end, I just want to, I want people to be better because I was in the world and around them. So
Oh, I love that. Well, thanks for coming on, Earle.
it was so much fun, Susan. I really appreciate the invitation. This has been a good time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out.